other plant. Nervous. Nervous. Okay. Podophyllum. Podophyllum. Podophyllum Pleinathum. Podophyllum Pleinathum. Podophyllum Pleinathum. Okay. Hey guys, it's Jess. Today I wanted to talk to you about a new plant that I got, the Podophyllum Pleinathum, which is this plant I have with me right here, also known as the Patrick Star plant because he looks like a starfish. So I got this plant last week and I hadn't seen this plant before I got it, so I've been spending a bit of time doing a little bit of research on how to care for this. I thought it might be helpful if I just did a video and share with you guys the plant tips that I found when I was researching. So the Podophyllum, he's known for his striking starfish shaped leaves. I think it's really grown for its quite striking foliage such as this. These guys can get quite big, so about 40 centimeters tall with a leaf span of 26 to 30 centimeters wide. I've seen some really massive ones out there on Pinterest which are about a meter or a meter and a half wide in terms of leaf span, which I think is crazy. But this guy is like bigger than my head, although I have a pretty big head myself. The other reason why they might be grown for, although I've seen a lot of articles out there say this is not advised, this plant has a bit of medicinal properties if administered correctly. So this plant is toxic to plants and humans. So this plant, when ingested, has some laxative properties, so you're going to experience some tummy issues if you accidentally, or your pet has accidentally ingested part of this plant. This plant also would bear flowers in summer and spring, and the fruit, and would also bear some fruit, which are these cherry looking hard berries. All of that would be poisonous, so don't eat any part of this plant. The Podophyllum is native to East Asia and the southeast parts of China. So that part of the world is quite humid to subtropical, and what that means is that it enjoys quite temperate temperatures that range from 6 to 25 degrees, as well as quite a humid environment. You do need to make sure to just keep an eye out for the humidity and the dryness for this plant. What I like to do is I'd like to spray some water around the plant, and I keep it nestled with other plants because that tends to increase the humidity. Also, I keep it beneath a tree again to just give it as much shade, and it's a lot cooler in the shade as well, which helps retain the moisture. In terms of coldness, it doesn't like any frost. If you're living in a place which snows, I would suggest bringing this guy in before it gets too cold. This plant also would go a bit dormant when it gets too hot or too dry. In summer, make sure to keep the humidity high around this plant so that it doesn't go into premature dormancy. This plant, in its natural habitat, lives on the ground and often on the sides of mountains or hills where it's covered by other plants. So what this means for this plant is that it enjoys partial to full shades, which makes it quite good as a house plant, particularly if you don't get a lot of light. However, I would suggest if you do have young children or pets, not to, you might think a bit before getting this plant, just because it's so toxic. In nature, it grows in clumps, so you would see that it would have maybe 5 or 6 other petioles. It's rhizome, so the roots that run underground tend to run horizontally, so it is a spreader if you decide to put this guy in the ground. This plant is a bit of a slow grower, so don't be alarmed if you're not getting much growth. My plant is just literally one leaf, and I think I just need to be patient before I see any other leaves coming out. So in terms of soil for this plant, it likes a lot of rich organic soil. As a shade-loving plant, it lives beneath a lot of trees where their leaves would fall and probably decompose in the soil around this plant. An easy way to make your soil full of that peatiness or organic leaf material is, if you do have a compost, is to mix that with your soil mixture to mimic the soil that this plant would thrive in its natural habitat. And the last plant care tip for this plant is that this, from a pest and disease perspective, it's generally quite pest free, so it's quite hardy to it's quite a hardy plant, so possibly another good plant if you are dabbling into houseplants or wanting to get a more unusual looking houseplant. The only other thing is, given that this plant likes to live in quite high moisture soil, is to be mindful of root rot. You want to make sure that the soil that you keep him in is still well draining. So guys, that's all I have for my plant care video on the Podophyllum Pleinathum. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you were introduced to, if you haven't seen this plant before, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this plant or being exposed to this plant. If you do have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!